thinking you're so important just because of $300. I don't care about such a small amount of money. Chuckling, my son and his wife looked down on me, hurling harsh words. I've been helping them for 10 years since they told me they were struggling financially. Even though they never found steady jobs, I held my tongue and tried to find ways to support them. And what do I get in return? Why did I bother helping them in the first place? I thought someday they would appreciate my efforts and soften their attitude, but that day never came. Isn't it clear now? I can't help but feel angry at them for laughing it off, saying it's not enough or just pennies after I've dedicated 10 years of my time and savings to them. I have devoted myself silently to my son and his wife, but today that changes. My name is Mary, a homemaker in my 50s. Since my husband passed away, I've been living alone. We have a son who moved out after college and now has a family nearby. Though our relationship isn't great, they've been a bit troublesome. After college, my son got a job where he met his wife, who became a full-time homemaker after they married. However, less than a year later, my son quit his job due to issues with his boss, assuming he'd easily find another. But things didn't go as planned. Despite searching, he struggled to find suitable work and eventually gave up altogether. His wife didn't show interest in working either, and within months they faced financial difficulties. To help them, I began sending them a modest $300 each month. They were grateful and thanked me for the support. Every day, I hoped they would overcome their difficulties and become self-sufficient. But now, after 10 years, my monthly $300 isn't appreciated anymore. It's something they feel entitled to receive. For example, one busy month filled with family events, I couldn't find time to meet my son and his wife on the usual day. I give them their monthly money. Late that night, I heard loud knocks on the door. It was my son and his wife. "Mom, we need the money on time. Are you starting to forget things because you're getting older?" My son teased. Tired and sleepy from a hectic few days, I replied, "I'll give it to you another time. Please go home for now." Then his wife, her face red with anger, said, "This happens every month. You have to give it on time. Just because you're my husband's mother doesn't mean you can behave like this." And she grabbed me by the collar. Shocked by the sudden confrontation, I reluctantly handed over the $300 to my son and his wife, which I had prepared earlier. "If you had just given it to us in the first place, this wouldn't have happened. I don't want to resort to physical force with you either," his wife continued. "You should listen to us and behave. Remember, if you ever lose your mind, we'll be the ones taking care of you. It wouldn't hurt to stay on our good side, right?" Their audacity infuriated me, but I feared that challenging them might cause them to depend on me even more, much like when my son quit his job. So, swallowing my anger, I smiled, apologized, and did as they demanded. Looking back, I realized I should have stood up for myself then, but my overwhelming desire for them to become self-sufficient left me feeling powerless. The unpleasant memories with them weren't just confined to that day. I received a call from a concerned neighbor. "Mary, can we discuss your son and his wife?" "Oh dear," I apologized. "I'll be right there." Apparently, when the neighbor returned from shopping, she noticed signs of a break-in at her place. After checking the security footage, she was shocked to see that the culprits were actually my son and his wife. Although her home was ransacked, nothing appeared to be stolen. Knowing about my strained relationship with them, she chose to contact me first. I left work early and reached out to my son and his wife. Together, we visited the neighbor to apologize. "I'm truly sorry," I kept repeating, but my son and his wife didn't seem remorseful. The neighbor seemed displeased, but things settled down after I agreed to cover the cost of the broken window. However, on the way back home, they said something shocking. "Why are older people so uptight? We just needed to borrow a few things," they remarked. I was so taken aback that all I could manage was, "Like what?" They continued, not even looking at me. "Sure, we broke a window and made a mess, but we didn't steal anything. Isn't she overreacting?" My son simply nodded in agreement. I couldn't comprehend what they were saying and remained silent the entire journey. Watching everything unfold, I should have found the courage to speak up to them instead of being afraid. My silence only showed my weakness. After that incident, I noticed their behavior becoming more aggressive. Thankfully, aside from the neighbor incident, they didn't cause major problems. So I continued to help them, hoping they would become self-sufficient one day. Whenever they asked for something, I bought it if I could afford it. My son wanted gadgets to socialize, while his wife desired luxury items to feel on par with others. Their demands kept growing. and they increasingly relied on me for everything. Even on my days off, they'd call me over for household chores. I worked tirelessly. They wanted more than just money. They lacked the means and motivation to earn for themselves. Thus, I felt obligated to support them. Despite my exhaustion, I remained dedicated to my job and fulfilled their requests, which left me drained. I developed dark circles under my eyes, my skin became rough, and dizziness became a regular issue. My son and his wife mocked me, saying, "You look like a mess," and his wife even pointed at me, saying, "She's given up on herself." I didn't have the energy to defend myself against their hurtful words. Deep down, I knew I was reaching my limit, but I felt if I stopped working and helping them, everything would fall apart for all of us. So, despite my exhaustion, I kept pushing myself, determined to hold everything together. Honestly, I had wanted to lean on someone and give up a long time ago. One day, while I was doing chores at my son's house, a small incident sparked an argument. I was already stressed and tired, so every little thing they did annoyed me. His wife then made a cutting remark, saying, "You act like $300 is such a big deal." My son, influenced by her words, added, "We don't need that messy amount," and handed back the $300 I had given them that day. They scoffed, saying, "If you're going to give us money, bring a decent amount," mocking and looking down on me. Those words sparked something inside me. "Fine then," I blurted out, "I'll stop. I won't think about the future or your feelings anymore." They both looked puzzled as I began packing my things to leave, but soon they burst out laughing. "Come on, Mom, quit playing around. If we left you, you'd be all alone. You wouldn't have the courage to live without your precious son and his wife," my son mocked. "Mary, since when did you become such a joker? That wasn't funny at all. You had me worry for a moment there," his wife chimed in. They thought I was just venting frustration and not serious about ending the financial support. They continued to mock me. "If you've got the courage, go ahead and leave," they challenged. "But if you do, we'll cut ties with you. Think you can handle being all alone? You'll regret those words soon enough. Your stubborn mom could never do something like that, right?" I felt completely cornered by their words, yet they continued to treat me poorly. I started questioning what I was gaining from supporting them. Buying them things they wanted, doing their chores. Wasn't I just being used and taken advantage of? It felt like they were exploiting my kindness, treating me like a servant even when I was at my breaking point. They might be family by blood, but their behavior made it hard to see them that way. "I'm serious. Remember that you asked for this," I asserted, but they just laughed it off, treating my words like a joke. "Go ahead and try, but you'll regret it soon. I can already see it." My son's words ignited a fierce determination within me. "I'm not going to take this lying down. I'll make them realize how much they've underestimated me and how wrong it is to treat me this way." As I packed up to leave their house, all I could think about was how I would stand up for myself. First things first, I cut off all the support I had been providing to my son and his wife, just as I had promised. No more money, no more financial aid, and no more helping out around their house. Nothing. From my perspective, I had always lived for the sake of my son and his wife, prioritizing their needs over my own. Taking action without considering them was new to me. Now, I could take a break without worrying about them. I could spend my money on myself and do chores just for my own satisfaction. Experiencing this newfound freedom was truly wonderful. My son and his wife believed I would never cut ties with them and live independently. But in reality, the independence I had yearned for over a decade was exactly what I achieved. Moreover, I decided to exert more pressure on them. I had leased the apartment they lived in after they were evicted from their previous place due to financial difficulties. Naturally, I was also the one paying the rent. Since I had decided to stop supporting them entirely, it didn't make sense to continue paying their rent. Therefore, I contacted the real estate manager and terminated the lease. The manager, who understood our situation, cooperated with me. They were given a month's notice to vacate the apartment, with the understanding that if they didn't comply, formal action would be taken. That night, I sent a text to my son and his wife, informing them that if they didn't move out of the apartment within a month, it would become a serious matter. They read the message right away, and within minutes, my phone started ringing. "Mom, what the hell is this? Where are we supposed to go?" My son shouted as soon as I answered. I could hear his wife panicking in the background. "You may have forgotten, but I was the one paying for that apartment. I told you I was stopping all support, didn't I? So, canceling the lease was the next step." I replied calmly. We never agreed to that. You said you'd stop sending money, but we assumed everything else would continue, my son protested. I chuckled at his naive expectation. Really? While you speak so harshly to me, you thought you could still rely on my support for everything else, except the allowance? It's astonishing to see how naive my son and his wife can be. I had let them treat me however they pleased for too long. Even when I expressed my discomfort, I always gave in to their demands, financially and with my time. It was somewhat selfish of me, hoping they would eventually become independent. But I was mistaken. They were the type to take advantage of my generosity as much as they were pampered by it. In hindsight, I should have clearly asserted my position and made them understand. I was the one providing allowance, offering financial support beyond that, and taking care of their household chores. However they look at it, I held the upper hand, and they should have shown gratitude and respect towards me. Instead, they treated me with utter disrespect, like a servant, a mere tool, an ATM to be used at their convenience. To make matters worse, they even laughed at me. When I was at my wit's end, why did I exert myself so much for such an unreasonable couple? Even when they treated me unfairly, I remained silent and let them have their way. Despite all I did for them, they never appreciated my efforts. They only took advantage of me. It wasn't until I reached my breaking point that I realized how selfish and dismissive they truly are, and how they never truly saw me as family. They may have viewed me as a resource, but never as family, not even a little bit. Why didn't I see this sooner? Why did I keep giving my all until I felt completely overwhelmed? Why did I continue believing in them? Looking back, I realized how pitiful my past actions were. I tirelessly supported them, hoping they would eventually become self-sufficient. But all my efforts seem to count for nothing. As I reflect on the past, my anger towards them intensifies. I feel the need to confront them and demand accountability. I won't be satisfied until they acknowledge their mistakes and apologize. Fueled by these emotions, I spoke up again. I'm going to stop the allowance but continue with the other support. What do you think? I asked them. That's not going to happen. My son tried to interject, but I cut him off firmly. No buts. You understand me. Your lives have always relied on me. If you ever upset me or if I decide not to help you one day, you'd be in trouble. Fortunately for you, I've been naive enough to keep hoping that maybe someday you'll become independent, that perhaps you won't need me to get by. That's right, Mom is kind. That's why you're not really going to abandon us, right? You just said those things in the heat of the moment and now you can't take them back. So you're doing this, right? It's okay, we forgive you. Let's try to be a family again, okay? My son pleaded. Don't be foolish. I've finally seen things clearly. Despite all the support, you two don't even want to be independent, do you? You just want to keep living comfortably on my dime, don't you? I retorted firmly. Trying to explain himself, my son backpedaled. That's not it. We did want to be independent, but we couldn't. We haven't even been looking for jobs. My wife feels the same. We tried in our own way. But it's been impossible. Almost laughing at his response, I couldn't believe their audacity to claim they had tried their best in their own way. I had been observing my son and his wife closely for years. Neither of them seemed to put any effort into finding jobs or living frugally. Instead, they were comfortably living off me every single day. How could they possibly say they had tried their best? Listen, Mom, we're really grateful for everything you've done. We can't even express it in words, but you've always gone above and beyond for us. We know we depend on you to live, and we'd be lost without you. So why don't we start over? You need us too, right? My son pleaded. Are you kidding me? I don't need you, I responded bluntly. On one hand, there's a guy who's still stuck on some trouble from 10 years ago, never holding down a steady job and just being lazy. And on the other hand, there's a woman acting like a stay-at-home wife, never supporting or pushing her husband, just doing as she pleases. You think I need people like you too? You couldn't be more wrong. Do you have any idea how much I've endured because of you too? Day in and day out, I work to make money for you, and even when I'm not working, I'm doing chores for you. It's been incredibly tough, and I finally come to realize that. After all that, I'm not naive enough to want to be family with you too. Don't say such harsh things, Mom. We need you, my son insisted. Without someone like you supporting us all the time, Despite my words, my son continued to argue from his perspective, disregarding mine. As I pondered what to do next, I suddenly heard a voice shout, Give me that. Then his wife took the phone. Mary, honestly, I've been frustrated with my husband's selfish behavior too. Most men go out, work, and support their family, but he just wanders around, not working. For my sake, I regret marrying him every day. I feel just as hurt as you do. I'm a victim too. Please help me, even if it's just me. I can't do this without you. After making her shocking plea to abandon her husband to save herself, his wife continued, I'll do anything you need me to do, whether it's housekeeping or anything else. Use me however you want. Please, Mary, don't abandon me. Her words left me stunned, and I could hear the couple arguing loudly over the phone, each trying to assert control of the conversation. Annoyed by the chaos, I frowned, and suddenly, it seemed the phone was knocked out of hand and the call disconnected. Days passed without a call back from them. It turned out their relationship had deteriorated significantly after that incident, leading them to decide on divorce and go their separate ways. They blamed each other and even fought over money, prolonging the dispute until their divorce was finalized. After the divorce, both of them tried reaching out to me, but by then, I had already blocked their numbers, so I never heard from them again. My son took on a factory job, working day and night just to make ends meet. Meanwhile, his ex-wife tearfully returned to her parents' home and confessed everything. They reprimanded her harshly. She came to apologize, accompanied by her parents, but she was crying so much that I couldn't make out her words. Since then, I've been living for myself. For a decade, I had been tied down by their needs and never had a moment to focus on myself. Embracing a life centered around my own needs felt incredibly refreshing and liberating. Although I ended up alone without them, I found solace in it. I'm uncertain about the future. There may come a time when I won't have the luxury to live solely for myself. But for now, I believe I deserve to prioritize my own happiness.